Welcome back to the Whiskey and Wisdom podcast. I am your co-host, Tyler Y'all. Today I'm with my constant co-host, Chris Kellum, and our special guest today is going to be Rich Cardona. He is the owner of this beautiful spot that we sit in right here. It is called Unfilter. And before we jump in too far to it all, let's do a quick intro of you, and then we'll have Chris introduce what whiskey we have sitting next to us.
Sweet. Okay. Rich Cardona, girl dad. Retired Marine, did that. I flew helicopters, was my last duty, so that was pretty cool, attack helicopters. And then after that, I worked at Amazon for a couple years, and it was awful. So awful. And then I ended up quitting and moved in with my in-laws and dabbled in entrepreneurship, photography. John's over there. John's like a true photographer. I was just like, I'll figure something out. I like to take pictures. And then I was just like, I could tell a better story with video. Started getting into video stuff, working with military CEOs, and then eventually podcasting. And then really fell in love with that as a marketing tool, not just like a thing to do, so to speak. And then, I mean, opened up an actual physical space a couple years ago here in Wilmington. Everything was remote before that, and I love having it. And I'm glad you guys are here so you could kind of see. It's like, hopefully it's a vibe.
Absolutely, it is for sure.
I walked in and I'm like, this is a good vibe. Because usually if someone's like, oh, this is a vibe, and it's never like a good thing. This like walked in, I'm like, oh, I like this so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate
the other benefit too, that it was so weird when we were coming in, like I had nothing with me. Like usually when we're doing podcasting, especially when we're going like on site somewhere, like we're like pack mules and we have like 15 backpacks and lighting and cameras and all kinds of crap. Yeah. And here was awesome. I walked in, I sat down and got a coffee. Like,
that's the goal, man. That is the goal. I just want to like, you could be the talent, you know, that's the whole goal. So I'm glad you observed that. We actually just went to New York to do a shoot, like a podcast blitz with a client, and they were speaking at a conference, so they had like all these guests. Like that was my first time truly like packing up a bunch of stuff, and I don't know if I would have been able to do it without John, but like we had a lot of stuff, and I was just like, this is not fun. But it was smooth. We had no issues. Like everything went smooth, but I completely understand, and that's exactly why I try and eliminate it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Before we go too far into it, Chris, tell us a little bit about what we have here.
So we got one of my favorite bottles. It's E.H. Taylor. As you guys know, we like this on the podcast. But I was able to source a bottle of the barrel proof.
Nice.
Usually we do just like the classics, but this is a barrel proof. It's a little different. It has more of a berries note on the front with some caramel and floral smells. And then it is pretty bold, a little bit spicier with some vanilla, some oak and pepper on the taste, and then on the back end, your favorite taste, rye, and some lingering hints of fruit. So this to me is definitely I would say like a tea style. So like I would drink this, like you could drink this in the springtime because it has that floral hint, or you can drink it on like the back end of summer when it's still kind of warm but not too crazy.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones. It's a good, easy sipper.
Oh,
nice.
So is.
Yeah.
I love to collect just this is fun. The different colors are fun. I just like the bottle too.
Of course.
So
I get that.
So tell us about, in general, yourself. You said you were in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
You retired.
Yeah.
So did you officially retire, or you're like, I'm done with my...
I retired early. So I joke the Marine Corps never has a recruiting problem. So we had a surplus at a certain year.
Yeah.
And they're just like, they do this thing. It's called Temporary Early Retirement Authority. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. But my buddy was he and I were neck and neck. He's like, I'm getting out. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm retiring early. I'm putting in this package. I'm like, what? And we're best friends. And he's telling me all this. And I'm like, okay. So basically you get to retire with a percentage of your base pay. Usually it's like 50%, 20 years, 50%, right? And this was like 42.5 because I was getting out after 17.
Yeah.
And the reason it made sense, I mean, when you're ready, you're ready. But I was grounded from flying because I had a seizure not long after I got back from Afghanistan. And I was just like kind of going from like obscure role to obscure role. And like that's usually when they're just like, have we got a deal for you? You're going to go to Japan for a couple of years and do jack shit. And I'm like, nah. So I tried to get ahead of it. And then I applied to do executive MBA with USC. So basically my last year I was doing like, I was a a legal officer at a group level, which is like 11 squadrons. So I was just doing like paperwork stuff. I had my own office, and I was like doing work half the time and then like MBA stuff half the time. And I just like counted the days, man. And so I was able to retire early, and it was just like a blessing. And when I retired, I was 34. So I was in the Marine Corps exactly half of my life at that point. So it was pretty funny. But
That's wild.
So I like to do the front end questions, especially when it comes to military.
Yeah.
So did you enlist and then go officer?
Yeah, 100%, man. So I was like private Cardona, you know.
You
and,
did the whole
dude. And it's just like, I will say this, though, like, I don't know if anything would have been the same if I hadn't gone that route. Okay. Like if you go to college first and then you're in ROTC or whatever and then go, I think like it's still extremely valuable, but there's nothing like getting your, for lack of a better term, just getting your shit kicked in for 3 months and the culture shock and like what is happening. Like I am the smallest thing on earth right now and these people are towering over me. And then at the end of 12 weeks, you're just like, I am completely transformed. You know, it's literally like, it's so important because it shows you off the bat how much more you're capable of than you think you are. But number two is like how to be like a teammate. For a lot of us, it's just like high school sports and stuff like that. But like this is like real. Right. So it really sets the stage. But yeah, without that experience, I'm not sure. I don't know if anything would have been the same.
So the reason I asked that is because I know a lot of officers who did the school route and then went in. I've actually, surprisingly enough, I met a few people recently who went through like the actual like military academies. Yeah. And I was like, oh, yeah. I unfortunately forget that it's an option because they don't take in that many people. Yeah. But I know that their mindset's different. Yeah. And I can tell, because I have friends all over, but I can tell like just sitting with you that your vibe and your mindset of like, hey, I got to get this done, you know, because you left the military, you went to Amazon, you're like, this is ass. So bad. But you found a way to get into this position now. And that's definitely a mindset thing. Yeah,
I'll tell you, you're bringing up a lot. My wife went to Service Academy, by the way. She went to West Point, and she was in the Army for 9 years. But when you get out, I think I'm just going to share something unique to me that I think is valuable. But when you get out, and I was at Amazon, for example, I'm like, who do I look up to here? Not to say that these were bad people, but like I had left working with some of the best human beings I've ever known and most and far more talented than me. So just imagine like a room, we call it the ready room, and it's all the pilots and we're all getting a brief and crew chiefs and other officers and whatever. You're like, dude, everyone's like trying to level up because you cannot be like that bottom 10%. Like you can't. So you're just like picking up on it. And then after combat, you're just like, you just see, I mean, everyone's completely unselfish. It's insane. It's like the greatest thing ever. And it's also the worst thing ever. But yeah, so that was like really tricky. So I'm like, I don't know if I freaking could do this anymore. Like, I don't know if I want to work for anyone anymore. At some point I thought about it. And then I kind of started doing this. Now the complexity is, you know, you always had someone giving you orders when you were in the Marines or whatever, or any service for that matter. Now it's like if I'm building a company, it's like you set the standard, and like there's a million ways to go wrong, and everything you thought about leadership is like one way, and then there's like, okay, now you're dealing with civilians, now you're dealing with other people. Like you can't just have the military mentality, so to speak, without scaring people off. There's very few people who could do it. So it's like it's a really gray area, but that was like an unbelievably challenging transition.
One of our friends of the podcast, Catherine Bruner.
Oh, yeah.
So when she came on, when I first met her in a different business, she was talking about something very similar. Yeah. So she was in
Coast Guard.
Yeah. And she was saying when she went off on her own, like everyone else had the SOPs for you in the military. And she was like, I got out and I was like, what do I do? Like, what do I look for? And then she was like, I realized I have to set and create my own SOPs to live by. Yes. And so I thought that was just really interesting, kind of how that mind shift occurs. And I'm sure some people do better than others making that shift and how to create those. Is that something that you realized for yourself too?
Yeah. I mean, like every year it's like, every year I look back at the prior year, I'm like, what an idiot. Like I'm just like, you know, I think 6 years in now. I mean, John was just doing SOPs yesterday for like certain things, like how we set stuff up. I'm like, redundancy is really important, but the amount of times I haven't done that, or the amount of times I had a great idea and I told the team about it and it lasted 30 days, like all that stuff is just like, you think about that stuff at night, like they probably think I freaking don't know anything, or that I'm a good idea fairy and I'm like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do this and here's our goal and we're going to meet and we're going to have this awesome vacation and I don't know what. So it's really, really challenging to kind of come up with things, but I think you have to be comfortable with like just being like, these are my losses, nobody else's, and it's just like, it's inevitable. Like it happens over and over and over, but at the same time, like losses are learning always. Like I always learn something. So like if I'm going backwards, I'll know it, but it's usually going forwards. And sometimes it's incremental and sometimes it's a big leap. I know stuff's going well with your company, but like, it's just, you just have to stomach that. But trust me, it's really hard not to think about how you are perceived, especially if you're like building something in public.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's freaking awful.
When you're going through Amazon, then photography, and then podcasting, what about podcasting did you realize, like, you know what, this is it for me?
So Gary Vaynerchuk, I would say is a mentor of mine, and I've been blessed. I've had him on the show 4 times.
That's amazing.
And 3 of those were in person. It was super cool. I met him. I wanted to meet him because while I was at Amazon, I started consuming his content towards the end, and I was like drunk one night, and I'm just like watching, and I'm like, this dude is out of control. I'm like, I like hated him, and then I'm like, he is like bars, he's telling the truth. Like
that's everybody.
It's just kind of like, wait a second. So there's this. You guys know the show The West Wing?
Oh yeah.
One of my favorite shows ever. There's this like flashback episode where Sam, the press secretary, he's director of communications. He heard about Jed Bartlett, this governor in New Hampshire, and then Josh is gonna go and whatever. And Sam's like, I think Sam goes. No, Josh goes, and Sam's like, I can't go. Just let me know if he's the real deal. So Josh is like, I need to go see this in person. And then he comes back, and then he goes to Sam's office, and he's like. And I was like feeling the same thing. Like I need to see for myself, like if Gary V's the real thing. So I go to this conference. It's a real estate conference, dude. I'm like in jeans and a shirt. Everyone is like dressed to the nines and like the freaking egos are like out of control. Right. And everyone just thinks they're it. And Gary V ends up coming on. And he's in his t-shirt and a beanie as he always is. And I had VIP tickets. And so I was like close to the front. And I'm like, I watched and I was like, holy crap, like this is awesome. But then I'm like, I need to make sure that I ask him a question. Like that for me is going to be the true tell. So, I've known from his podcast and all this stuff, like it's really hard to get time with him. So he's getting ready for Q&A and he's like, you guys might as well start lining up now. He's like 5 minutes into his thing. He's like, you know how it is. And I am right here next to the aisle and there's a microphone right here. And I'm like about to step up. I'm like, hell yeah. And I look and there's like a line. Oh, wow. And I'm like, oh no. And then there's a woman there. I'm like, I'm right here. And she's like, okay. So I said something to him. I asked him about, I'm transitioning from the Marine Corps and this and that. And I mentioned something about podcasting. And he's like, do it. And I said, also, I want to give you my squadron patch. It was from my squadron.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, I guarantee no one else has given him something like this. So I gave it to him, asked him the question, and then I met him backstage. And he was super cool. And then he's like, he was just legit. So that was a very roundabout way of saying, like, I could absolutely feel like he was super legit. And then another conference, I saw him again, asked him if I could come to Vayner. He's like, of course. And I got a meeting with him and then a podcast and all this other stuff. And here's what I'll say. That moment with him led to me looking into his community. And I was really fond of all the like hustlers in his community, people trying to do something, people working out of a 9-to-5 and all this other stuff. So he had this community called First in Line with Gary V on Facebook. Yeah. So I just started interviewing them. Yeah. And like, it was almost like I was doing it for him, in a way. And I quickly realized, like, I was like, this is fun. Like the stories are great. Everyone's super unique. And that's how it kind of started. But,
Wow.
you know, it was literally, I owe that and entrepreneurship to him. And then, you know, how he always is, create content. I was like, this is the easiest content to create, as you guys probably know.
Yes.
Like you probably do this rather than set up a camera and do your shorts and all that other stuff.
Exactly. 100%.
Or be like, let me script my YouTube video. So yeah, that was really the beginning. He was a catalyst for sure.
I like that.
That's awesome. And so now you kind of transition into more like business owners, right? And
Yeah.
kind of using that for marketing for them.
Yeah.
How has that kind of changed, one, your trajectory into business, and two, what are some of the largest benefits that the business owners are seeing from having a podcast? I know they're two very different questions.
Yeah,
but-
yeah. I'll tackle one at a time. So the first thing is like, you guys, I hesitate to ask, but like, are you making a ton of money from this podcast?
We don't even try.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which means you would podcast without the incentive of making money because you get joy from it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm the same way. Like truly, I love to podcast. I love to interview people. Like that is fundamentally fantastic for no matter who you are, business owner, mom. I had a client who was a woman who retired from corporate and she had lost her parents during COVID and she wasn't able to get to see them. So she wanted to do a podcast interviewing other businesswomen's moms and be like, what? And I think it was called Stuff Your Mama Forgot to Tell You. So she was just asking them questions like, what about this period in life where you are in your 50s and you're leaving corporate? Like, what do you do then? So it was really cool. So, you know, that's great. You can do something like I was doing, Leadership Locker. It doesn't matter. If you want to do it, then it's fantastic. And I think it's just a creative expression for sure. And it just allows you to kind of network.
Right.
So there's that. Now, once I started working with business owners, there's a couple categories. There's people with disposable income and there's people who need this to work. And I have realized the people who need it to work have always been the hardest clients. And here's why. They don't have the patience you guys do, right? Like they believe that podcasting can be a silver bullet for their failed YouTube experiments, their failed Instagram experiments, and their Facebook ads that they don't hate. They're like, well, this must work. So they need it to work, and that usually creates a lot of induced pressure at the beginning, and then their podcast just sucks.
Right.
And it's just like, it kind of feels more transactional, but it doesn't mean they don't get a ton of content out of it. But I will tell you guys straight up that for me, podcasting and what I was trying to provide the clients, and I've adjusted my positioning so much now, I used to just be like, you'll get this many clips, it'll be on YouTube. Like, oh, that's cool, but that's just an output.
Right.
That's not an outcome. So like I've adjusted dramatically in the last 6 months onto being like, okay, here's what I know. People want to make money off their podcast. What's the way to do that? Now, before I tell you how they do that, I did work with some very, very high level $100 million CEOs and these people with disposable income. And they were the same as you guys. Like they were just like, it's like goodwill.
Right.
They're just like, I just want to put out all this content. Like, I just want to be helpful. And they didn't need it. And those people had more offers than anybody.
I believe it. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like they just like, they had so much patience and the runway was so long that it was like the opportunities would find them and they're just like, not now. And when they want to cash in, they will, you know? So that's one distinction. It's really important for me to mention to listeners. So the way we do it now, the way I look at it now is using podcasting, and this is slightly contrarian, using podcasting as a way to literally like interview the decision makers of the people you want to work with. Right. Period, point blank. Like I'm so over it. Like I'm so over people like, oh, I don't have a sponsor yet or this and that. And I, you know, they expect to be the next whoever. Jenna Kutcher, Joe Rogan, doesn't matter. I'm like, no, like if this really is about money, then just interview the people you want to work with. So we did a test with that with clients I have in Cincinnati. After a year of doing this, and it was just output, nothing was moving. And they just kept asking, like, dude, when are we going to get sponsors? I'm like, I cannot get you a sponsor when you're getting 57 downloads an episode. Like, I've done everything I can.
Right.
And I go, let's do this. Use it for client acquisition. They're in logistics. And they're brokers, and they work with shippers, distributors, other warehouses. I mean, all these people. And they interviewed, I think in the first couple of months, they interviewed 6 people, closed 3 deals.
Wow.
And these are like fantastic companies.
Yeah.
And they built rapport. And You know why I wasn't shocked? Because like, this is cool. There's an energy exchange. They get to know each other. It's a warm intro. It's not a cold call. You have a reason to follow up.
Right.
Like, you now have a relationship. And it cut the sales cycle. I think it was like, one of them said 8 months. I think it was more like 6 months. But like, for big companies or big deals that require that much, like, you want to shorten the sales cycle. So that's how we kind of position it now. And I'm just like, I'm just going to be that dude who's like, I will lead you down this. I don't care what people think, but we're not going to be like sleazy about it. It's not going to be transactional. Like, you should genuinely be curious about these people anyway.
Exactly.
And if you and you're not pitching, right? Like, I'm not pitching you on my own show. We're just establishing rapport. Yeah. And if you provide a good experience, and John's seen it, like, at the end of it, they'll be like, tell me more about what you do.
Yep.
Or how do I work with you? Or maybe we should collab. We literally, the last interview we did in New York that I was telling you about, like, we were literally watching a potential joint venture form at the end of the podcast.
That's amazing.
I'm like,
I love that.
This works.
Yeah.
So I'm all in. And that's where I'm at now.
That's awesome. There's 2 people that I follow, and you described exactly what they do to a T. Is they have the longer runway. All they do is just provide massive value to people. And they both have podcasts, and that's what they do is they sit down with people, they provide massive value, and usually that outcome ends up being some type of business relationship, or they get introduced to someone that makes sense. And they don't do it because they know that's going to happen.
Yes.
They do it because they love the interaction. They love building community. And when people can genuinely feel that.
Yeah.
You know, like, they know when you actually care. Like, when we sit down with people, like, we actually want to hear your story. Like, that's why we started this thing. That's why we don't try to make any money off of it. Yeah. But yeah, it's exactly what you said too. It makes sense when you actually care, people care about you too.
Yeah. The byproducts are substantial. Another one of the interviews in New York that we did, the host, our client, the host, was interviewing this very up there doctor. Very hard to get one-on-one time with and whatever. And I think it was at the end of the episode, he goes to the doctor. He's like, I got to ask you. He goes, I promised my wife I'd ask. He goes, my father-in-law is very paranoid about Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and blank, blank, blank. He says all this. The doctor starts asking him, did you do this? He's like, yep. Did you do this? He's like, yep. Did you do this? Yep. Did you do this? No. He goes, why not? He doesn't want to. He's like, what's his number? He's like, I'll call him. I'm like, what? Like, dude, like, if that's me, my wife and I are going to have fun for the next few months, right? Because, like, it's like, dude, like, I mean, like, I just delivered, like, come on. So I was like, man, so, like, nothing might happen business-wise, but, like, that's an intangible. No one will ever forget that. Yeah. So the byproducts are substantial, period. So, like, yeah, it's not just that. That's the key. Like, if you do 48 of these in a year and you close 10 of them, like, you're probably good, like, depending on the size of your deals. Right. But the rest of them, the other 38, like, you just have relationships.
Yeah. Yep. And they might connect you to somebody else.
Yeah.
Or it's just they didn't work out at the time because they weren't in that position.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, like, full disclosure for us, when we first started this, we gained a lot of traction pretty quick because we started early enough that we could in Wilmington, because not many people were doing this in Wilmington. And so, like, we started going after sponsorships and stuff at that point. And there was a few people that were interested who weren't making, like, bukus of money, obviously, but just, like, barely paying expenses from the podcast. Yeah. I'm like, you know what? The time and effort that it's putting into finding the sponsors, like, I could be, one, putting into my own business, and I can make a lot more, one. And two, it's taking away from, like, actually building the rapport before sitting down.
Yes.
I think that's something that a lot of people who want to be podcasters don't understand too, is all the upfront work to get someone into the chair to have that good conversation.
I mean, let me ask you guys this. Like, that's I would say pre-production stuff, but, like, how much effort goes into the podcast outside of just that? Like, my question is it easy?
No.
It's like,
why is it not easy?
Yeah, because not only do you have the pre-production stuff to bring onto it, but even coming up with the questions and ideas and making it sound as natural as possible and have the back and forth, knowing that someone is either going to talk too much or talk too little is always in the back of your head during the podcast. Afterwards, you do it right here. You have someone who's actually editing, like, almost on the fly for you. But afterwards, we're doing all the post-production and everything because we don't have a whole team. So, yeah, it's a lot more than just like if this was us in our own studio, our podcast we're doing here would take 3 hours total from like introduction, pre-planning to postscript onto YouTube.
It's an investment of time.
Yes.
And effort.
Yes.
So, and that's why I think it's like, the reason I asked that is because a lot of people, when they get a guest, I think they make the mistake of like making the guest do things. I'm like, dude, they're already donating their time.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't ask them for this. Like, don't ask for their bio and headshot. Like, if you could find it, you know, like slide it into your 3 hours of stuff you got to do anyway.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, don't ask them for like, hey, what's a link to your website? Now, if they have a product or something that they want to push or a book, like that's different.
Yeah. Right.
But like, you know, or I want to do a pre-interview. Sorry if you guys have done that before, but like that is like legit. And like a pre-interview, like you want to qualify me for your podcast? Like, no. So I just think like the guest experience is something we talk a lot about here. And it's just like, how can you make it to where they're just literally able to show up and just do their thing and then be like, see you later. They get a follow-up email. They get notified when the podcast is coming out. They get links. They get a Google Drive link to like the whole thing, you know, all that stuff. It's like, okay, cool. Like all that in addition to like whatever rapport you built is, I think, what pushes it over the edge. But like, you know, asking your guests to do anything to me is like the wrong move. And I think that's where a lot of hosts can improve.
I have a question for you, actually, just for our own benefit.
Perfect.
Is we do have a link that we send people to Google Docs link, and it's up to them if they want to use it or not. Like if they don't do it, it's not like, oh, you can't come on the podcast.
Yeah.
But it's for them to kind of fill out like, hey, these are the things I really want to go over. This is how I want you to introduce me and everything.
Oh, okay.
I already have an idea of what I want to do, but I send that to them just in case there's something I'm missing. Because it does have like a headshot in there because I will find their headshot on my own typically.
Sweet.
I was like, if there's something you specifically want, go ahead and do it. If you don't want to do any of this, that's fine too.
Yep.
Do you think that makes sense? Or
Has
is
anyone
that
filled it out?
Yes.
A lot of people do, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go. That's what I would say, man. Like, I mean, my gut was like, hell no. Like, don't do that. Like, just don't even bother them. But if they're filling it out, that means they're eager to share what's important and they want to steer you in the right direction. The only issue with that, I would say, from like a strategy perspective is depending on what your listeners want might not be what
they want to talk about.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just like, you just got to think about that. Because if someone's coming on to talk about, if I was on here right now talking about analytics, like I promise you your audience would be like, dude, never again. You know what I'm saying? So, but if we're talking about business outcomes and outcomes versus outputs and stuff like that, then that's different. But yeah, that's the only kind of gotcha I might look for. Be like, am I sure my audience wants to listen to this? That's it.
It's funny too. So like we'll both look over the doc and Tyler has the memory like spot on, like an elephant. So like he'll see everything and like know what they want to talk about, and I'll glance over it, and so he'll ask the questions that they want to be asked, and then I'll ask the silly questions.
Perfect.
That like because when we conceptualized the podcast, it was, what are you doing like when you meet somebody at a bar? I'm typically the drunk guy who's going to ask you that question that makes no sense, and then Tyler will be like, so in this business that you run. And I'm like, no, that's 100% how we are as real people.
That's good though. Like,
like have that dynamic. So one, because I typically bring the person on. I know a little bit about them. We've probably gone to coffee or something before. I'm like, hey, you know what? You're awesome. Let's have a podcast. Yeah. So like we like go down this like deep dive like rabbit hole, and Chris is like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Can we back this up a little bit? Yeah. Because we don't want the listener either to be like, you just went way too far down the rabbit hole.
I like that. So, that's real life, man. I mean, I think it's, if you guys were the same, then it would just be awful.
Right.
On both sides. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, just be
if both of us were ADD, all
right. Like we have Rich on here to talk about podcasting. It's like, what'd you think about the Super Bowl? And then you're asking me like, what do you think about men's luge? I'll be like, I don't know. They don't need to double up. Like,
no.
True. It's also
my wife and I were actually talking about that the other day. I'm going to ADD for a minute now since you opened the floodgate.
I'm down.
But we were watching. We were in Boone. And we were just getting dinner, and I saw it on the screen, and I was like, "That's two guys," like, because it looked like just one.
Oh yeah, stacked on top.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I was asking her, I'm like, at what point did someone go, we should throw another guy on top?
Right.
Like, at what point was like that would make this event better? And then who was like, we should do that for all countries all over the world? And I was just like,
good point.
Fascinated by that. I'm like, that's kind of crazy. And anyway,
No, we went down that because we have a TV at work, and we play any sports that like any of our brands sponsor. We'll have it on. So like the Olympics is sponsored by Omega, or like they're the official timekeeper. So we had it on the whole time.
Nice.
But I'm watching this and I'm like, the Winter Olympics are literally just like, hey, what would happen if? Like every single event is what would happen if. Like what would happen if I put blades on the bottom of my shoes?
Yes.
And went trying to run around here. Like what would happen if we put pads on and try to follow this like really small puck?
100%.
Or how many people can you stack on top of each other going down a ski? And I'm like,
I did go down the curling rabbit hole to figure that out too.
oh, I love curling.
Yeah.
That actually makes sense.
Yeah.
Fun fact, it used to be called Rumble Rock because that was the sound that it made.
Really?
Yeah.
Rumble Rock?
Yeah. And then they changed it to curling.
Curling makes way more sense.
But yeah, 100%. But yeah, I'm super with you. It's like the sportsmanship award Olympics. It's like, you know, everyone wants to see track and field and like,
Yes.
Sorry, I was not tuning in for, you know, the solo finale and skating.
No. I saw clips. I'm like, okay, that's way more detailed. Like they were saying this does that and that gets you this many points. And I'm like, so skating is literally gymnastics of the Winter Olympics.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you break it down, I was like, oh, okay,
Yep.
that makes sense.
Ridiculous outfit, ridiculous music. Yes, lots of smiles the entire time, all that.
Yeah.
My face would be sore.
I know it, right?
Thank you.
I think before we started the intro to the podcast, we were talking about you had a fun drunk story.
Yes.
So I
Not
figured this
fun.
is a perfect.
I was gonna say,
so-
I don't know if
maybe
it was
not
fun, but he did say.
It's a good story. So I started really getting into podcasting, and I forget where we were living. We might have still been with my in-laws, but I was like, I kind of had like disposable income, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So I was making it a point to go do in-person interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also just starting to do video work, and it was like horrific video work, but people were like paying me like nothing. I'm like, here's your product, and everyone's dissatisfied. It was great. So I met this group of people, and they were having another event in Dallas. So I flew down to Dallas, and I went to Dallas, and then I had to go, and then I booked one of the speakers at this Dallas event. She was going back to Austin. I'm like, can I podcast with you there? So we go to Austin, and that's where I worked at Amazon in Austin.
Okay.
So I hadn't seen people in a while.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm in town.
Yeah. That's good.
And I was like, all right. So I meet up with my friend Rachel. I would be able to like smash 3 old fashions in like an hour, no problem. Like, just like whatever. Then I meet up some other friends, then some other friends. And then next thing I know, it's like, I don't even remember how I got back to my buddy's house. I have a podcast, I would say at noon, and I wake up at like 8:50, and I'm just like it was just
that taste.
Yeah.
so
The whole feeling.
like 11 out of 10 bad. There's like a club going on inside of my head, and I could just feel my eyes like burning, and like I was like freaking out. Now I have, again, like almost 3 hours. So I'm like, I should have nothing to be worried about. Like the place is at this hotel, this beautiful new hotel, a couple miles from here. I mean, whatever. And she's an author, and she's an awesome person. So I get there at like 11, and I'm like, I'm going to get exposed. I gotta do something. Like there's not enough gum I could chew. And I was like so scared, man, that I was like sweating the alcohol through my pores. And if you've ever had a bad hangover, you understand what I'm talking about. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like freaking out about that. I'm like, I probably smell. My breath to me was just like a freaking dumpster. I'm like, this is so bad. So I go and I crush 2 sausage, egg, and cheese croissants at the like cafe there. Ooh. And I'm just like, I got to get this off.
Right.
And I'm doing everything in my power. I feel like my eyes are half shut. My head is still pounding. And then we meet up. And I have this little area set up. And that's another thing, by the way. Like, I didn't ask permission from this hotel. I just, like, used a common area. Yeah. I was like, I think it's just crazy. Back then, when you're just starting, you just don't care.
Just do it. Yeah.
You're just like, whatever.
Oh, yeah, we've done that.
I was saying, we have those stories.
Like, you're just like, whatever. Like, until someone says no, it's like, whatever.
Right.
So we sit down and we do this interview. Probably lasts, like, an hour. And we're done. And I'm like, relieved. I'm like
made it through.
Let's just depart. Like, I don't want to say another word to you. Like, I just want to pack up my shit and go. And she's like, that was the best podcast I've ever done. And I'm like,
oh no.
I know. She goes, I'd love for you to come to lunch with my husband and I. I'm like, no. I'm like, I literally, like, I don't even know if she finished, like, explaining why it was a good idea. And it could have been, like, good for business because I was just starting out. I was like, no. So I go hop on a plane back to Dallas to Virginia or whatever. And that was the last time I ever had a drink. And and the reason is I had all that time to think about it. I'm like, if this means a lot to me and I care about it that much, you know, like, why would I, like, put myself in jeopardy like that? Yeah. Now, before that, I would say, like, I had alcohol issues. I mean, I was in the Marines and saw and did some crazy stuff. And there's nights that I'm like, how did that hole end up in the wall? Like, you know, just like stuff I don't remember. So it was always a problem. And, you know, I'm going to be super transparent in therapy. I talked to my counselor about this. I'm like, why was it that it was like the podcast, showing up drunk to a podcast, did that instead of, like, you know, my wife being super concerned, or, you know, I had a newborn and, like, what kind of example is this or whatever. He goes, the event doesn't matter. He goes, what matters is there was an event that led you to it. And he goes, everyone's ready when they're ready. So ever since then, man, like, that's when I truly started, like, making a business, and we've had all up years except one. And I think, like, abstaining from alcohol, and I always say I never know if I'll drink again or not. I don't think I will. Right. But I'm just like, that was it. It was just, like, super crazy. But yeah, the best podcast she ever had happened to be, like, I was freaking hammer time, man. Like, I was like, seriously? So yeah.
You were probably thinking of, like, either everyone else was terrible or like I was able to, like, pull this through.
I don't know, man. Like, I truly don't even know how that went down like that, but it worked out. So.
That's awesome. Like, honestly, that's kind of similar to, like, we still drink, obviously, but when we first started the podcast, it was not great because we didn't realize
you were drinking during it.
Oh yeah, because we were doing 5 episodes in a day. We were drinking, like, full glasses. At the end of the day, we were sloshed.
Dang.
Yeah. And then we're like, you know what? This is bad.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't good.
Yeah. That.
Dang.
You can definitely tell, like, this year too. We were booking out, like, 4 in a day, and then we'd had a gap in between, so we'd either go get food or go get another drink. And so, like, the last person of the day just got...
Yeah, no clue what we talked about.
Yes.
It was absolutely off the rails.
True Chris questions. Like, 100%.
Would not advise, yeah.
No, yeah, there was one in particular that I think we went, like, during our lunch break and just drank more for some reason. I don't know why. It was a terrible decision. And came back, and I'm pretty sure I said, like, the same phrase, like, 15 times in one podcast. And I was like, this is stupid.
It's a good thing he's the editor. So.
Right, yeah. So it sounded a lot better because I edited it out. Yeah. But in the meantime, it was not good. And I think both of us, like, cut down our drinking just in general. Yeah. Like, at least for me, like, 90% because of that.
I feel like a lot of people have now. I don't know, man. I maybe just because I'm 45, but, like, I just feel like everyone's tempered a little bit more than in my circle, at least.
Right.
I'm like,
yes.
I feel the same way.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of alternatives anyway.
True. So. Yeah.
No, I think my new favorite thing is when a bar has, like, an actual, like, NA cocktail program.
Yeah.
And I'm like, time to try something fun.
Yeah.
Because, like, I like alcohol, but only I'm at the point where I like to taste the flavors that, like, a good bartender makes a drink. And so that is really when I go out and drink. Like, I look at this, I'm like, okay, this configuration sounds pretty good. Let me check out, like, what their NA menu looks like, because if they have a good NA menu to go with it, it's my favorite thing.
That's true. I went to a place in Carolina Beach once. We went on a double date, my wife and I, with some friends, and I was like, can I have a mocktail, like, old fashioned? He's like, I'll try. It was superbly awful. I'm like, never again.
No.
Like, forget it. So like, I'll do, I think hop water is, I mean, that's just like water, but I love that. I'm like, oh man, like good. The hops experience. I'm like, okay, reminds me of when I was having Stone IPAs and all that good stuff.
Right.
So.
Stone IPAs. The good old days.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Dude. So, I used to live right there, like at the root. Oh, I mean, it was when I was stationed in California. Oh, wow. It was, if you've never been, you won't want to leave. So make it a point to get out there sometime.
That's pretty cool.
He's been to Cali a few times.
Yeah.
We have not made it out that way.
Yeah.
But I do have a random question. Looking around your studio, it is gorgeous.
Thank you.
And I've been following like the journey, and I love the fact that like some of your walls move and you can change out the sections. Like, who did you come up with the idea of like interchangeable areas, and kind of like how you built it from like one room to multi abilities?
So I have 2 friends who have studios, and one of them doesn't have anything special going on in terms of like the set. He's very much camera heavy, and he goes, "Don't set the set, set the shot." That's his phrase. And I'm like, And his content is super crispy. It's amazing. And I have another friend in Austin. We used to work at Amazon together. He has a studio. It's probably the most prominent one. It's called Media Pouch. And he's had Gary Vee in there. Chris Williamson of Modern Wisdom Films there. Lewis Hamilton's been there. Like he's all the heavy hitters have gone there.
Yeah.
Now he has he had a set, and it was just like always recognizable that that's like it was filmed there. And I'm like, that's cool for him, but like if I'm a guest or if I'm a host, like I don't want the same set as Chris or Tyler, right? So it's just like one of those things. So I was just like, let me see. And I did not, number one, with this place, there was no market outcry for a content studio. So like, trust me when I say like, there's been a lot of like trying to make this work. I don't know if Wilmington has appetite for it yet, but it's coming around now for sure.
Yeah.
2 is like, if we're going to do that, I just want people to have variety. So we have all kinds of random, stuff, but the walls on wheels, like, so they each have like that. The back side of that is different. That is exactly the same on the back, except black. We have good lights that can bounce off certain of the things that we have and whatever. So I just wanted to at least give people the option. Now, one thing I would say is, and John actually set this up so it's kind of like this 180 degrees always is a part that moves. Anything outside there should never move. Because I was doing stuff all the time. I'm like, dude, it'd take me like 3 hours to set up for a podcast. So it was like, what an idiot. So like, this is not a good idea. But even though it's like easy to move around and stuff, like a lot of people like that. Like, and I don't like it, but like people like it. And I'm like, okay, it matters what the people want.
Yes.
So like good intentions, not the greatest judgment. And it wasn't bad judgment. Like, trust me, like we've used a variety, but like, I just wanted it to be a little bit more customizable. And that was really important to me. And then like the plants and some of the random stuff we have around here, we have shelves of stuff. Yeah. One of my friends was like, she's like, it looks like you just like went on a home goods spree. I'm like, that's exactly what I did. 100%. I was like, where's clearance? And I just got this random stuff. So I think it's just important to at least have the capability to add a different flavor for people who wanted to host here. That, and then like if you were just doing short form instead, like then all of a sudden you have like 12 options versus like 3 sets for a podcast or 4 sets. So yeah, that was the reasoning behind it. But there's a pastor at my church in Leland, the Leland campus. These were his ideas. And because in Florida, he's like, we had a mobile church for a while until we had a building. So he's like, we had to set up, tear down. He's like, so we just did this. So it was his idea, and shout out Pastor Barry, and he helped do all this. And I was like, this is so cool. So
no, I like it. Like, we have so many ideas together. Our wives are just happy that we're not broke. Because I looked and talked to Tyler about doing a content studio a while ago. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I can't make that work. And I was happy that like this opened. Yeah. So that way we can be like, oh, check this spot out. Yeah. Like, I like having a spot that I can show people and send them that isn't the same cookie cutter. Yeah. Because like you said, if everyone knows you're shooting at the same spot, it gets kind of boring.
Yeah, I think so. And we actually had our first Peerspace booking the other day, and I didn't have much information, and I was like, forgot I was even on Peerspace. Right. So they came here, and we met them at Drift, and they had like luggage. Like it was like Spaceballs. I'm like, this is a lot. Like, what is going on right now? So they were doing a documentary, and they're from Australia, and they were like, we've been here. They've been like literally going all over the globe for the last however many weeks, and this is their final stop. And either they were like overtired or legitimately excited, but they're like, we love Wilmington. They're like, it's charming, it's great, it's good vibe, and this and that. And then they came up here, and then they're like, this is fantastic. And you know, even though we have everything, he set up his own stuff, and it looked unbelievable. Don't get me wrong, but I was like just so happy. I'm like, I'm glad. Like they just needed somewhere to do their thing real quick, and they were in and out. And it's like I always say, be in, be out, be fun, be done. Like, and that's exactly what happened. And then he left us an awesome Google review and Peerspace review, and I'm like, cool. Like at least people can start to know like it's something that's available.
Yeah. No, I'm happy that you've been able to grow and kind of like set up something.
Yeah.
One of the things that you do a lot of content about too that I've seen, and it kind of goes in with what Chris was saying. Like everyone's talking about they want to start a podcast. One of the things that I like that you do is you actually sit down with them. Like, do you actually want to have a podcast? Because I'm sure more times than not, the answer is no. Can you go a little bit more into that and kind of like what questions you ask people? So anyone who's listening who had like the crazy hair, it's like, hey, yeah, maybe I do want to start a podcast. Kind of like get them to go through that process.
If you're a listener right now and you were like, yeah, I want to start a podcast, I'd be like, why is this important to you? Like first question, like, because I'll know immediately. Like, well, it doesn't matter what I know. It matters what they figure out. It's like, because let's just assume it's going to go 90%. 90% of people are going to say because it can make them money or more awareness or whatever. But cool. What does that look like for you? Like, how many followers or how many downloads would make you happy? What's your Instagram following now? If you have a podcast, what do you think it'll get to? And then we're really able. So then it's like, oh, so you want to 10x your Instagram based off a podcast. And then it's like the recoil happens. And it's just like, I think it's just as important to like at least make people aware of the unrealistic expectations they might have than to invest, right? Because like if I could save them money, that's still good for our brand, right? You know what I'm saying? So there's that aspect. And then the other is just asking them like what they actually need. Because then like some people like you guys, like you have gear and stuff like that. Like you might need so much less. And I might be like, dude, you just need like coaching and consulting or something along those lines. So I think those are like the types of questions I would ask. But it's all, you should just need to be a doctor. And you don't go to a doctor's office and tell them, you know, what you think is wrong. Like, just let them ask you all the questions. And that's how I try and do it now. Instead of diagnosing, just asking them. Now, the biggest thing I'll tell you guys and anyone listening is if you're interested in a podcast and you think it's a good idea because someone told you it would be a good idea, it's probably a horrible idea. Like no one we've ever worked with who's like, my CMO thinks we should start a podcast, so we're going to do it. Like they don't care. It was not their idea. They're not invested in it. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's just like a channel that they can use. Now, if you're already creating content or you already have a podcast and you want to turn it around or flip the purpose of it, that's completely different. But otherwise, I would say podcast by proxy is what we call that. Like never ever works. But you just need to know like, and the real question I like to ask is if this makes you no money in a year, are you going to be okay with that? And everyone's going to say no, mostly, I would say. But now, the way we're positioning now, it's like we do expect it to make you money. But for the majority of people, if they need it to work, then we're probably not a good fit for each other.
It makes sense. The way that this kind of got started is one, I had a business before that was very labor intensive, but really all I enjoyed doing was going into businesses and talking to them anyway, because that was like 90% of the time that I was doing. And I was like, well, how can I do that? And then sitting down at a bar, having a conversation with someone, and I was like, you know what, this would actually be fun. I don't need to go out to the networking events to like find people. Like I can bring people and hang out, like do it on my terms and everything. I've always hung out with Chris and we worked together at Reed's like back in the day and everything. And I was like, you know what, I need someone to lighten me up a little bit. And Chris is the guy to do it. I was like, so let's get together. What do you think? And Chris was down. So that's kind of how this whole thing came up.
It's an extension of what you like.
Right.
I'm super. Yeah, that makes 1,000,000% sense to me. So
I love it.
Yeah.
So what would you tell a business owner right now who would interested in what you're doing but they don't really understand the podcasting concept because they might be a little bit older or whatever the case may be. They don't listen to podcasts themselves. What are kind of the values of having that podcast beyond just like the networking side of it that we discussed prior?
I would say you just made a case for it yourself, right? Like, do you like to go to conferences and pass out cards and say, hey, I'm Rich. Like, what do you do? Like, all right, like awesome. Like that's anxiety inducing just talking about it for me. So it's like, okay, do I prefer that? Am I a cold DM guy? No. Am I a cold email guy? No. Cold call guy? No. Like, can I get a setter for that stuff? Yeah, but like, do I want that to be part of my brand? No. So I would say, like, if you want a different method that you could be proud of and it involves something that you like to do, which I would say primarily is relationship building, which a lot of businesses are, unless it's just like a straight product, then like that's why I think it would be a benefit. So it's like it's avoiding networking, you know what I mean, and instead having a strategic conversation. Period. You know, that's how I look at it. So that's one of the benefits. The other is, yes, I mentioned it before, like, but it's undeniable. The content output is substantial. Right. So if you don't like to sit in front of a camera and do reels or get all creative and whatever, then obviously this is going to give you a lot of output. You could go on YouTube. You could do shorts on YouTube. You could do, you know, obviously TikTok, Instagram, whatever, blogs, all that stuff. So the output's kind of undeniable. The other thing I would say that is slept on the most is, well, let me just ask you guys, do you think you asked better questions than you did year one?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you feel like you're able to carry a conversation in a podcast better than year one?
Significantly, yeah.
Yes.
Like, you just get better at communicating, which is, again, a huge part of relationship building.
Yeah,
right.
You are better on camera. You probably ask better questions, all these things. So all that stuff is just polishing some of the things that already exist in you, in my opinion. So those are some of the things I would say are probably the biggest. Now, one tactical piece is a lot of people do audio-only podcasts still, and people are against video and whatever. I'm like, okay, look, the writing's on the wall. Spotify's got video. Spotify now has clips. Apple just is introducing video. They did have video before, but it was like really weird. So now Apple's got it, but it doesn't matter because YouTube, the world's second largest search engine, or maybe third. I don't know if chat is considered a search engine now, but that's where most discovery is happening. So it's just like your discoverability is like substantial. I mean, it's head and shoulders above podcast players. Like, I am on Spotify when I work out and whatever, but I'm not scrolling on it to look for a podcast ever. Like, it's not like Netflix. Like, I'm looking for good podcast cover art. I'm like, I'm going to listen to this. Like, that's just not how it is. So discovery, your best option is to put it on YouTube. Have the shorts and all. And look, it's a grind. You're going to be just disgusted with how slow it grows. Yeah. But like, if that's where discovery's happening, like, there you go. So it's just like, if you just want to get discovered, cool. And if we were just like we were talking about at the beginning, if you just really, really want to provide value and you don't need guests or anything like that, like, you could literally just do solo episodes all the time and just be like, I'm going to tell you everything I know about podcasting. My friend Caleb did a 6-hour video on how to build a brand. He used to work with the Hormozis. We were there at the same time. And 6-hour video. He didn't expect anything of it. That thing went ballistic. Oh, wow. And next thing I know, like, these humongous, well-known entrepreneurs are reaching out to him, like, we'd like your help. That's amazing. 6-hour video. Not once a week. He did a 6-hour video, and he's like, I just do one here and there. He's like, the quality matters more than anything. I don't want to make the quantity just for the quantity.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's legit.
I did start a secondary podcast as well, and it was I wanted to, but I didn't know how to do it at first. And one of your videos on Instagram actually convinced me to go ahead and do it because of the teleprompter. Yeah. Because like I wanted it to be very well thought out and everything, but I didn't know how to do it. But I was against teleprompters. Yep. And after like hearing you like kind of go through like the concept of it, and you also mentioned something too that I also had to learn. When you first start using a teleprompter, it sounds like you're using a teleprompter. Right. And it's another acquired skill that you have to learn to make it sound more natural.
Yes. Teleprompters, I would say, it's like, it's a tool, man. Like, like, if it's going to be way harder, if it's going to take an hour for you to like do this 5-minute episode and it could take 5 minutes with a teleprompter, just do that. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? And then just edit the script like to read exactly as you talk. Right. Like, that's the key. Is like, no, a lot of people don't go in and do the edits. But yeah, I think a teleprompter, dude, I used to be so against it. It's like there's just no ego when it comes to it. It's like, who cares? Like, what's someone gonna do? Like, Tyler, bro, like, can you imagine like the audacity someone would have to be like, yeah, man, but you use a teleprompter. Like, you're not a real podcaster. Like, those are fighting words. Like, really? So yeah, man, like, I think it's a tool. It's good, and it's like, if you are able to capture your thoughts better that way and put it somewhere where you could read it, freaking go for it.
Yeah.
100%.
So starting to wind down, but
Yeah.
before we get to that point, if someone's already doing podcasting and it feels stale,
Yeah.
and they're trying to get it back up on the mend again, what are like 3 quick tips that you would tell them to do?
100%. So the first thing is explore your format. Like, is your format good? Like, is there something you could put in that could break it up, like a segment? Like, if you're just going to be like, here's my hook, here's the lesson, and talk to you later, then okay, like maybe there's a segment where it's like, I'm just making something up right now, like a reaction. I saw the funniest Instagram post about men's luge, and I just want to talk to you guys about it for a second before we continue on with podcasting. We literally did that here, right? So maybe you have a segment, and if that segment catches fire, maybe it's like mailbag, right? Like people are asking you guys questions depending on your expertise. So something like that. So that's one. Second would be like, what are you promising your listeners? A lot of people don't have a listener promise.
Right.
So it's like, my listener promise is in 22 minutes or less, I'm going to teach you one tactical thing about podcasting. And then on Thursdays, I will teach you one tactical thing about business, whether it's building an email list, whether it's ad copy, whether it's sales calls, whether it's a VSL, like doesn't matter, right? Like, so what is your promise? And like, do you fulfill that promise every episode? You probably don't. And if you don't have one, then that's why you're probably a little bit broad and like it's not catching. Yeah. I would say the third thing is, I'll never forget, the number one, everyone always wants to know, like, how do I get my podcast better? Or how long should my podcast be is like a huge question. And it ties into how can I make my podcast better? It's like, your podcast should be shorter than your last episode. It's like, dude, like, just go shorter, like, because here's the deal. If you check your average consumption time, I'm getting into stats for a second, or analytics, you could look on Apple or Spotify and be like, wow, people consume 50% of the podcast. Yeah. This is a 20-minute episode. In the first 5 minutes, I'd talk about, I let the guests say who they are and where they're from, and then they tell me everything from elementary school all the way to, like, their professional career. Like, so 5 minutes out of the 10 minutes people are listening is them just getting a biography of someone. So it's like easy opportunity to be like, okay, number one, I'm going to cut that out. I'm just going to get time to value should be like the fastest thing. Like, what's the fastest you could get to value for the listener? So shorter than your last episode, and then time to value would be the last thing. So those things right there, I think, are a great little cocktail to check. And I think if I were just to add one other little thing on there, it's, do you really want to be talking about this stuff? Like, I once was doing like a LinkedIn series on YouTube, and I was like, because I was doing really well on LinkedIn at the time, and I was like, this sucks. Like, this is no fun. Like, I'm going to make a YouTube video about how to use voice messages to get a higher open rate on your LinkedIn DMs. Like, dude, no. So, like, do you really want to be talking about that, or did you think it was a good idea? If I happen to be into professional wrestling and WrestleMania is coming up in a couple months, and like that's all I want to talk about, then like, I don't know, man, you might enjoy it more.
Yeah.
Right. True.
And again, if you don't need it to make you money, then like all of a sudden, like next thing you know, you're a couple of years in, and it's like, maybe it does. Maybe you get a sponsor from like Mattel or I don't know what. So.
Right.
That's an interesting place.
Yep.
So then one of my last questions for you is, what does success look like for you?
Success? There is, for business, not podcasting generally, but for business, I am really into family experiences versus like things. Right. So like, I just want to do things that will leave core memories for my girls. I have 2 daughters, and like they're everything to me. So for me, it's not about like what I could get them, but it's like, what are the things we can do together, right? And it's funny, we were talking about the Olympics, because that is like on my bucket list. I want to go, like, not here. I want to go to like Madrid when it's in Madrid, and like take my girls and my wife, and we go, and we are freaking decked out, like obnoxiously USA, everything, and flags and all that, because I think it would be cool. Like, I'm like literally touched by the Olympics in the summer, because like there's just times where someone gets on the podium and they did something unthinkable, and I'm like, woo! I'm like, all right, this is crazy. And I mean, I'm a patriot. I served in the Marine Corps, so like stuff like that. So it's like, I need to have an abundance of money to make that happen. So again, it's like, now I'm shifting a little bit more intentionally to businesses who hire you, and you help those businesses make more money. You will be in their good graces for a long time if you continue to do that. If I help you guys have a really awesome podcast and it doesn't make you a dime, and that's part of your goal, we're gone in 6 months. when we were supposed to work together for a year. So I think financial independence is one of them. And then obviously just to serve. I love to serve. The more you make, the more you could give. So like we do a lot of stuff at church and stuff like that. But financial independence, I think a lot of us seek that. And that's what I'd like to do with the business.
I love to hear it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So my last question.
Yeah.
So instead of looking forward, looking back a little bit, if you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
My younger self. Focus, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good
that's
Lord,
a good one.
man. Just focus. One of my clients, my biggest client ever, like I'm technically bound by an NDA, but he's a $100 million CEO. He's extremely, extremely, extremely well known, has many famous books. He would record when we worked together in his closet. And it was so value packed. And it was just like, I never understood. And like, it sounded fine and everything fine, but there's a video of his that came out recently when someone was asking him about, I just can't get the things done that I need to. And he mentioned, he's like, I work like in a closet. He goes, I have no stimulus. So like I have nothing. Like my food's in there. Like if my chair could be a toilet, it would be, right? Like it's just like ridiculous. He's like, no stimulus. He's like 4 hours, the first 4 hours of my day, no matter what, I'm doing deep work. I'm working on the business. So the focus, I would say focus, you know, it's like, it's really, really hard because you want to be super dad, you want to be super husband, you want to be a good boss, leader, you want to create content, you want to do all these things, but it's like the amount of things that don't actually move the business forward are substantial when you like look at the course of a day. You're like, what the hell did I do? Like, no wonder there's no pipeline. So I would say that is the main thing. And it's like whatever you feed will grow. And if you're feeding everything, then everything's going to grow like a millimeter at a time. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I'm very hopeful that this year is going to be a much more focused year and that we're going to have a substantial jump as well. But I would say focus, man. It's just too easy. Plus, I'm just easily distracted. Like, we're the same, dude. Like, I mean, I'm all over the place all the time. But trying to have deep periods of focus. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I like it. So we know the studio's Unfilter.
Yeah.
Are you taking on any new clients? You want to bring some people on?
Yeah. If you want to rent the studio, right now we have studio rentals where it's exactly like this. This is obviously on the house because like we're all buds here. But like if you guys wanted to rent this, you could come rent it. You get 3 camera angles and all that good stuff. You get like a switched file at the end of it. And then we will upload on Google Drive the 4K files. Oh, wow. And then you get your stuff. So we won't edit or anything like that. This is just for the rental. Now the difference between that and like Peerspace and some of the other places are like, the camera's an add-on. And it's like the other camera's an add-on. It's like, oh, you want an Amaran? Like, that's an add-on. I'm like, dude, like, why are we nickel and diming here? So that's what you get. You could do short form. You could do long form. You could do, I would say, a huge business builders video client testimonials, especially if you put those on Google. Like, you'll show up higher in search. So we definitely do that. Yeah. So that's what we do here at the studio for studio rentals. And then in terms of clients, like, yeah, obviously, if you're a business owner and I would say you're doing probably over $50K a month and you have a decent marketing budget and I would say a high ticket offer, something like upwards of $8K or something like that, then it probably makes sense for us to have a conversation like total white glove. We handle everything, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so like we're always seeking people and you could find me on Instagram at podcastrich.
Perfect. That's awesome.
Yeah. I just want to thank you for letting us come in.
Of course.
Yeah, this is amazing. Thank you.
Fun episode, but to me it was very knowledgeable and it seemed like densely packed with good info.
I'm super glad. So cool.